I don't think this video is going to change the world. As a mentor of mine often says, I'm a little boat. I don't go far from shore. And so my goal is much more modest than changing the entire world. It's that hopefully I can help you, the viewer. You clicked on this video for some reason. Maybe it's because the title, the worst thing you could do in your career, and you're hoping to avoid that. And hopefully, my goal is that I can help you. So, normally, this idea is not presented so obviously online. Normally, this poisonous idea is much more roundabout. And I think it often is displayed in things like an anonymous Redditor hanging out on CS career questions, and someone who's in their third year is getting worried about AI, and this anonymous user goes, 3 years into your CS degree, just time to give up now. You've already been left behind. Or maybe it's the intrepid CEO whose business and livelihood depends on people believing things like this, saying, you don't need to learn, you don't need to know what's going on, just tab complete your way into success. What's both of their conclusions? That you don't need to learn. You don't need to try hard. You should just give up. But here's my problem with this. First is that the future is very hard to predict. But here is something that is nearly guaranteed. If you do the things that they're suggesting, if you stop learning, being curious, and improving, then you have solidified your future into exactly the one that that you might be afraid of. And this sentiment, this naysayer, doomsdayer sentiment, is a self-reinforcing and self-fulfilling prophecy. The more that you believe it, the more you will see its effects in your life. If you believe that there is no hope, there is no chance to get a CS job by even like something grinding LeetCodes, codes, well, then you're not going to grind LeetCodes codes, and you won't pass a job interview that might require it. Or in a maybe better and more nice scenario, though, is maybe there's a new technology out that you would have been interested in and would have looked up and would have found out things about and would have eventually gotten a job for. But because you've already given up, you've guaranteed that that won't happen. Maybe you're so hopeless that you think there are no software developer jobs left right now. And so then you have 100% ruled out the possibility of getting hired by not applying anywhere. This naysayer doomsdayer path bears its own fruit to itself. And you believe it more and more as you go down this way because you keep seeing it happen in your life. Sorry, next page. I want to be clear in this as we go through this video, and as I've mentioned in other videos, I use AI. I don't think that it's useless. It's been very useful to me. However, I think that sometimes as software developers, we overstate its inherent usefulness. And particularly, I think this is pernicious amongst experienced software developers. And the reason for this is because of the curse of knowledge. Let me read you a quick definition there in case you don't have this, which is basically the idea that says, after having become highly familiar with a topic or skill, we struggle to imagine what it's like not to know it. And so when an expert programmer uses an LLM, they often find bugs easily or small improvements that they could do or use prompts casually in a way that an experienced programmer would know and be able to do, but a regular person wouldn't. They would use words like a server or a database where maybe regular people wouldn't even know to use those. And so by their own unconscious, almost subconscious here, right, ideas and phrases, they lead the LLM to solutions that it would not have gotten by themselves. And they get to the end and you sort of say, yeah, the LLM did a lot. I mean, I just had a few small things that I did. But the problem is those small things, one, they only felt small, and they were only small because of all of the years of experience and practice that you had leading up to this time of you working on this particular problem with an LLM. And so that inflated expectation, even from experts in the field, right, is that normal users will not be able to reproduce the same experience. And this is my point. That sounds an awful lot like an expertise in a job description where knowing things might be useful. But beyond that, I also want to say that if you never develop or get new skills or knowledge, then you are only ever going to be as good as what the LLM can give you. And if you're only as good as what the LLM can give you, then you are a commodity. If your only skill is asking the LLM for something and then just executing on the LLM's vision, and it has to be basically uncritically because you don't have the tools to evaluate whether that decision was good or bad, then you are so much more likely to be replaced by an LLM than if you had other skills. So this is once again reinforcing within itself that the business is going to want to replace you either with an LLM or someone else as soon as possible because you are just an LLM with extra steps. And this is where the idea is so dangerous, is because the giving up happens so long before the consequences. They're separated by a large time gap here where you've given up on improving, and so then later that bears its fruit in being completely limited by whatever the output of the LLM is. And so the natural expected outcome here of the give up advice is actually the very thing that it fears, which is a hopeless and jobless future, right? Where you aren't able to offer anything unique or useful. And the thing that's missing in the discussion is that life is all about trade-offs. Every decision you make has a cost, even if it's just the cost of not doing something else. Sorry, my hands are cold. And so if you give up on learning, or maybe more specifically in this case, you give up on learning computer science, you are giving up on all the opportunities that you had to learn, right? All the opportunities for hard work and the serendipity that can come with it. And perhaps even a successful employed future where the LLMs take a little bit longer to take everything over than we had originally anticipated. And what are you going to replace your current time with as the alternative of giving up on software? If it's just give up to give up, well, certainly the better option is to keep trying as a software developer. So instead of giving up on computer science, wherever you are on that journey, you could try, and you could even consider trying hard. And you are simply missing out on exactly what you can do later, which is giving up, right? The alternative is you just work hard, and if it doesn't work, then you can give up. And so then you'd be in the same place, which is so funny because the predictions of why software development is going to be dead are the exact outcome that completely makes irrelevant whatever things you were doing before. Let me explain. If we truly get LLMs capable of making Uber with catnip bug-free instantly after just a few words and some electricity, then it won't matter what you spent learning beforehand. The entire fear is that LLMs will make any piece of software trivial to generate. Explicitly then is that all software will be trivial to generate. And so the premise in itself is self-defeating. No matter what, in this doomer world, we all get to the point where software is infinitely easy and infinitely cheap to create. So then I will just create the software then that would make me money. And so, if you truly do, of course, have a curious mind, you're going to explore with AI and LLMs. I think it's a good idea to gain skills in that area, to figure out how to play with them and try them out. But that is all within the spirit that is antagonistic to the idea of just giving up and only learning the bare minimum or not learning at all and just trusting the LLM. Instead, right, of that, we should just consider the scenario of, will I get a job? Will my career advance simply by using the AI that everyone else is using? And the odds of that seem incredibly low. Instead, and this is the same advice I always give to everyone about finding a job, is you need to find a way to differentiate yourself. This is the same as before LLMs, and it will be the same until well after humans no longer write software, if that ever occurs. This differentiating factor could be a wide variety of things. It could be that you go into the office and shake someone's hand, or it could be that you tried a project to learn something underlying like re-implementing HTTP, or maybe it's that you built a side project, that's your passion project. The scenario that I really can't fathom is your employer is so impressed by you giving up. That's the scenario that I can't see happening and I can't imagine. And so, I'd like to conclude with a few thoughts. Let me read these here. I don't, my suggestion is, don't cede every thought, every experience, every idea, every emotion, and every experiment to the LLM. Because if you do that, you slowly become the LLM. And as we said, LLMs are a commodity, which would make you a simple and replaceable cog commodity. If your only skill is pressing tab like everyone else can do in your editor, that's where I would be worried about. Instead, being competent is better than being incompetent. Thinking is better than ceding all thoughts to the LLM. My encouragement is, try to find ways not to be a commodity. Make yourself useful today, right now. And of course, continue to prepare to make yourself useful for tomorrow. If you try hard, the worst thing that can happen is you can take the easy path later. It's only hopeless if you are. Oh, and be nice. It really helps. Okay, Amber, you can eat.